Noon, I suppose. Robert,
Yes.
you're
Good morning.
in a train station. You are delayed, from my understanding, so you're having the quintessential Bond experience.
Yes. Yes. I mean, I am in Brussels right now, and usually Eurostar is on time, but today they did me a solid and also got delayed.
Are you willing to share where you're off to, or no?
Yes, it's very exciting. Going to Amsterdam, meeting some colleagues.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, agreed.
Well,
Agreed.
I am in the usual garage, so not as
I
exciting.
do feel like though I don't know if your garage is cold. Kind of, there's like the heated and the non-heated garages. Uh,
It is probably colder for me here than it is for you at the train station. So since we've been talking, it looks like Eon has released the 131 arch wheel correctly.
okay, 131.
So I think he may have figured it out, which is good.
Ooh, awesome.
And then you have some wacky pull requests, as you are prone to doing. But I'm gonna go ahead and share my
one
screen,
very
maybe.
important
There we
one landed yesterday.
Oh,
The one where we migrated the table scans already is on main.
for Python, or no?
No. So, but migrating the table scans, it's for everyone. So the load operation goes through this stuff like this. So many code paths actually already
migrate
used in this.
I'm glad Eon feels good about this.
Yeah, that's.
Were you thinking that that this was something to be? Oh, this actually makes me wonder. I wonder if he released that arch wheel with it.
That's what I was wondering, because that should not be a 1.3.1. That should be a 1.4.
For Python. No, it looks like he built off the latest tag, which is good. He did what should be done here.
Yes.
So let me explain my work just for clarity's sake. What we've had these issues with the Python tags. We use GitHub Actions to release the Python wheels, and so when we push a tag, here's this Python v131. That will produce the builds. Sometimes GitHub Actions, and what has happened lately, has screwed something up in a way that has been difficult to debug. And so what we have done is we've just created subsequent tags with these sort of like detached head state on main or off of the last tag, and then pushed that to let the GitHub Actions work. And it looks like he did. Basically, I've got a Python v131-2, which is me like trying to hammer this to work properly before, and it looks like he based his work off of that, which is really, I'm glad that he did that. But what you are telling me, just let me checkpoint some stuff that I was working on. What you are telling me is that when I go over to main, I'm going to have all sorts of fun DataFusion-y goodness.
Yeah.
Let's do next test. So, how risky do you feel this code is?
Well, I mean, I think we uncovered. So, the tests uncovered a bunch of stuff, which I always think is good. If our tests raise in places, it means they cover edge scenarios. One thing I have been doing better, I hope, or I'll let you be the judge of that. But especially the PRs which landed the new providers contain also multiple layers of additional tests. So unit tests for the new structs. We also now run the dead test. And we used to run the dead test, but we only kind of checked if we could load the table, if we could do a log replay. We never actually validated the scan. Now, well, we didn't validate that we load the right data, right? Those tests were added as well in the previous commits. This PR is one I like as well. Because
the
also
validation on the stream.
Yeah, so maybe one recurring theme, and this goes even broader, right? I mean, we've been talking about log store a bit, and if you should track log store on the snapshot. I had some fun with DataFusion sessions, and one of those things I left a comment surface here, which was kind of interesting, dangerous. So we've been kind of creating sessions ad hoc all over the place. Also, we created something called execution props in a function that optimizes predicates. But what happens is when you create execution props and optimize expressions, it does literal substitution for functions like now and stuff, so that every evaluation gets kind of the same value, right, as you move through the execution plan. Well, we weren't doing that, but every invocation got its own little execution props. So I've been spending more and more time making sure we properly wire through sessions and then hopefully execute every query against exactly one session rather than create a new one here or there.
Yeah, everywhere.
Yeah. So that's an important change. There is some might call it a regression. I called it an acceptable lot of comfort. So
some might call it a regression. I choose a growth mindset.
Yes, exactly. So what we used to do is we used to store the logical expressions in the data checker, or actually we didn't even store the expressions. We stored the metadata that we extracted from the schema. And then from that, we kind of ad hoc created what we needed to evaluate those expressions. But this also meant that literally every invocation within a single query, like every batch we check, got a new execution props. We recompile, well, maybe not, maybe yes, but we recompile the expressions all the time. So what we do now is we just collect all the predicates from every data validation step we need to do. So null checks, generated columns, check constraints, and invariants. And then we run this through 2 steps of optimization. So DataFusion has a function that optimizes predicates specifically, simplifies them, and then we run it through the physical optimizer. So we end up with a single physical expression on what's called the data validation XF, which is the execution plan. But obviously, since we only have one expression and that expression got optimized, we cannot trace back anymore which constraint caused the violation, which is something we could do before. And the fact that we can no longer do that also is responsible for a lot of the changes, because the error message changed. It just gives you a violation count. It doesn't tell you this value did that, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of the changes on the PR just update assertions on errors. Yeah. But that's what we do now.
And so that's the regression, is that now it says you violated a constraint and that's it.
Yes. Yes.
Good luck guessing which one.
Exactly. Just do the right thing. I mean, how hard can that be?
Yeah, I mean, don't write bugs. I mean, so I'm just running off of 031. I'm just running one of my tests with the DataFusion log replay, and so this is 35-ish seconds CPU. I just wanted to see sort of where things were, and then I want to switch to main, where we have different things, and I want to look at if there's a noticeable performance difference in one direction or the other. Do you think that the swapping of the next table provider requires a major-ish release, like a 031?
Yes. So I mentioned a couple. Well, actually, I mean, we have to. I mean, it may have been that kind of public API got nuked or something, but I don't think there's much change in that. I think most of the change is internal. But if you look at the PR description, what did change is the schema that we expose on the table. Obviously, and that change is already kind of on main on the table provider. This just integrates it, right? But what changes is how we treat petition columns. And that is, we used to append petition columns at the end of the schema. And we had some logic that would then, I don't know, take the normal schema, take the petition columns, append the columns, blah, 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 blah. But right now, we just take the schema that Delta Kernel exposes, and whenever we need to know if it's a petition column or not, we just check in the list if it is one. But we don't care which order it is. And as it turns out, usually kind of, or often, and we have some tests where that isn't the case, but oftentimes petition columns are actually the first columns in the table. And just DataFusion chose to append them at the end, but those would now appear in front.
I don't think that's not a big deal.
And then there's changes in the physical schema as well. I also said to myself, if people depend on the ordinal from their table during the scan,
there's other problems.
Yeah. We also we love the discussion about strings, right? Large strings versus short strings.
The UTF-8 v large UTF-8.
Yeah. And there actually there is another PR up that I also need to review where they wanted to revert some of that and not use string views by default everywhere. And
DataFusion PR?
Yeah, I think on the DataFusion update PR. But I'm very happy that Andrew confirmed my suspicion because, well, they published stuff about it. But string views are optimized. Actually, if you read stuff, if you push the string view kind of base schema directly into the Fakir scan, you get some performance benefits out of that. So, yeah, rather than making a choice between large and normal string types, we just now default to view types. Yeah, but you can push your schema into the scan as long as it's kind of logically compatible. You can just tell the scan what schema to use. But then you would need to build your own scan via the builder. So if you go through the public APIs, you probably always get string views.
That's good. Yeah, it's better. So I guess the many dollar question, it's not $1 million question. Let's be honest with ourselves. The table provider next, do we have deletion vector support in that?
Yes.
Do we have column mapping support in that?
So column mapping support is a hard yes. There's multiple tests on the column provider, but also in the DAT tests, they also run the test for column mapping and deletion vectors. And actually, column mapping was a lot of fun because you remember
Okay,
we looked.
I'll take your word for it.
But we looked into the partition values, right? And we saw that the partition values are also stored in physical form.
Mm-hmm.
But the vector of partition columns contains the name in logical form. And I checked the table. Luckily, there was like a great table in there that underwent column mapping and had kind of deletion, had partition columns defined and stuff I could test against. But yeah, that was fun. There is a caveat, and there is a PR open that says, like, I don't know. So I think the deletion vector should work right, but sometimes we may be doing a little bit extra work. But that extra work, it's just creating Boolean vectors with all truths. If a deletion vector existed, we exhausted it, and then we're still getting more batches from that file, which can happen, right? Because let's say you only delete the first row, then you'll get like a one entry selection vector with a true, and then you have to impute everything below that, behind that for, yeah, you have to just say all true. And there we may be doing a little bit too much generating true vectors. And this is what this other PR aims to optimize. Essentially just removing the deletion vector once we exhausted it. But yeah, it passes tests for column mapping and deletion vectors. And there are several new ones.
All right.
Wait,
well,
by
we
the
have
way,
an ignored test that I'm going to run.
I was going to say, there's a couple of ignored tests that we should be able to execute now.
Well, let's see. Go, 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 go. Womp womp. Something fell.
Womp womp.
Dun, 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 dun. Something panicked. Result unwrap on error value. Oh, okay. That's helpful, I suppose. Let me just see if there's an ignored.
So I need to board the train really quick.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
So I'll be back in hopefully just a little bit.
Okay. We'll see him if we see him. Enable when deletion vector supported. According to Robert, deletion vector is supposed to be supported. Failure. 80571 from directory path. Oh, good grief. This is probably just a stupid test failure. So let's... But people will be so excited if we can support deletion vectors and see that in column mapping. La, da, 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 da. Guess we need a might as well go big. This is just an old test. That's the problem here. So from directory path, I think that should just be path there. I don't think we need to put that into like some other different path, but we'll see. Failed to create URL. Well, okay. We're in test data. Let's see if this actually exists. There is a possibility that, oh, I know what it is. You have to canonicalize. I think that's what it is. But I don't think from directory path will do a canonicalization for you. Path, and then we'll go fail to canonicalize. That means that the thing doesn't exist. And then, let's see. I'm expecting this to fail for other reasons. But hopefully it's failing for good reasons. This looks like it might be a good reason. Unable to get field named deletion vector storage type. Interesting. This could be, yeah, this is a dumb test. This is just a dumb test. So this is sort of indicative of some of the tests that we have in Delta RS, where we have a, we basically have tests validating the internals. So this is like trying to validate the actions that we're deserializing off of the transaction log. And since we've adopted Delta Kernel, we kind of don't need to do this. So I'm going to remove that part at least, because what we really want to do is we really want to see, is the data correct? Expected action. Well, this is just doing tests on actions. This may just be like not a good test. I'm just gonna make sure that we can open it. That feels like it's good enough, because testing actions is dumb. Dumb. It's a dumb test. Because what we would do before is, if the table feature deletion vectors existed, we just exploded. So if we can open the table, then that's progress. And it looks like we can open the table. Things don't explode, you know, so hooray. Yeah, see here we got to canonicalize. So you have to canonicalize that path. There's no need to do a path new here, though. That's unnecessary. So let me take that out. Make sure that test succeeds, and then I'll go look at the column mapping tests. I'm looking for the green checkbox over here, or my green checkbox right there. And there we go. Commented out code. Just delete it. Just delete the code. Don't be so dramatic. Just delete it. Delta result. This has to be canonicalized as well. Canonicalized path. And then we're going to unwrap that. And we'll unwrap that. I think that's correct. Whoop. Oh, this might be doing some other silly stuff. La da 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 da. Well, I see that we're live on Twitch correctly. I'm gonna fill out options. This should be an expect. It shouldn't be a question mark. Failed. And then we get a from directory path. That should be Yeah. Oh no, can only use an. I gotta return something at the bottom. Do we have a Robert? Robert is that guy on the train. So we can't, we'll just do an expect on that. Expect failed to create rel. Oh, we hear a Robert. We see some of a Robert.
Now you can hear me again?
I can sort of hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I am in the quiet section, so I have to be a little bit mindful. So they may tell me to just shut up, and then I have to shut up.
You should probably just shut up and not be that guy.
I asked before if it's okay if I say that wrong.
Yeah, they're gonna throw Robert off the train. Robert's gonna be left in some Flemish field as he gets tossed off the train. So these test failures that I'm looking at are on this test with column mapping, and I think this might just be a change in our test data. Because the stuff that I'm seeing here is not what I would expect to be seeing.
And there's another breaking change, which is the path you get from replay looks different, right?
Oh, that thing, I'm not as worried about that right now. That's not actually the thing that's failing. If I am looking at this correctly, we're on 953. I think the entire, what are we looking at? We're looking at the add actions table. I might just nuke this test because that add actions table function is something that I was looking at deleting anyways. Is there a reason, Robert, do you want add actions table to stick around, or can I nuke it from orbit?
So I've been wanting to get rid of it. There's users who use it. Right now, we're probably not forwarding any tags or anything, so this will probably break. But yeah, I'm not in love.
I like the quiet, Robert. It actually makes everything you're saying a little bit more serious. So we need to get rid of the add actions table. However, no. So Robert being on the train, we might lose you at any time. I think what I'm going to do is, if we've got tests for deletion vectors, I think this test for column mapping, I'm just going to make it a simple test. Like make both of these just really simple tests that ensure that we can open the table, but don't actually do any assertions on the data set itself, or like on the add actions table, because we want to nuke add actions table. And we'll just leave it there for now, because, yeah, there we go. So let me create a pull request with this real quick. Where should we go? Cargo format. We may have lost Robert. We may have not. Who knows? Rocketing towards Amsterdam. On actions table. Near future. Features quickly. All right. Unfortunately, with Restream, I can't really share my music in a useful way. Oh, you're back. What is this dumb thing? GitHub, be killing me. So I'm going to assign this pull request to you, Robert, and let me move on to other codes. What did I call this? Feet. That's what it was. I named that branch as well. So the big question I have with deletion vectors and column mapping is outside of a DataFusion context, what happens for a table that might write, or a writer on top of deletion vectors, or a deletion vector enabled table, if it'll work correctly or not. So there's a lot of questions that I've got to answer, at least for myself, on where things go. Feels like I'm there. Feels like I'm there on the train. Love it.
Mesdames, messieurs, bienvenue aux voyageurs montés cette édition, cet Eurostar à destination d'Anvers Central, Rotterdam Central, l'aéroport Schiphol.
Thank you, Carly, for muting Robert and the train conductor behind him. Okay, so we have oh man. I mean, if we're gonna do a big release where it's a 140 or a 031, I'm kind of inclined to take all this shit kind of regardless of whether it's really ready to be, or to merge all of this shit regardless if it's really ready to be fully reviewed or not, just to get everything represented in here. So I'm looking at 4050 and this is the one where we have our constraints get moved, or the reporting on constraints gets moved. So let me look through this. What I'm really looking for when I'm reviewing a lot of this code, because it's difficult for me to keep the context in my head, is I'm looking for clearer logic errors or performance challenges that might betray the stream-oriented goal that's being discussed for this. And so obviously this pull next is where we're doing a lot of that lifting. So I guess, Robert, a question, if you are able to clarify in text, I can repeat anything that you put in the private chat or verbally, is is this columnar value something different than what I think it is? Like, like, what's a struct or a map? Or is this a different type that I'm thinking?
So the columnar value is kind of the internal representation of data for DataFusion. It surfaces very, very rarely, but it just wraps
I see. Where did I go?
an arrow array or a literal scalar kind of. So, I mean, there is this scalar-ish scalar in arrow.
Yeah, and so a map.
Thing.
A map is kind of an array. A lot of things are kind of actually arrays in arrow. And so that makes sense to me why this would be just array and scalar. As Robert might say.
Yeah. And I mean, to be honest, we should never actually hit the scalar branch. That's why I didn't pay much attention to the arrow message as well, because we do this when we write data into the table, and this is only an intermediary representation. Kind of the record batches that go into the table will never just be a scalar or columnar value. Oh, this is a good one. Yeah, open that one.
Well, this is a good one. Uh-oh.
No,
That's always concerning.
That's the one with a lot of red.
Yeah, it is. It is with a lot of red. I'm actually curious to see. Let's go. Let's see how Robert is faring on deletes versus adds in history. Have we reached Robert 0 yet? We may not have.
I mean, when the purge happens.
No, we're not yet to Robert 0. We're pretty close to Tyler 0.
How much more do I need to delete?
You need to delete, 25,000 rows or 25,000 lines.
No worries. I'll.
You're like, done. I can do that.
25K is. We'll get that done.
Remove a lot of that. That's good.
This is the invocations I mentioned earlier, right? So this is not actually change motivated by this, but since I changed this optimize function to take the session, we now need to honor that in the invocations. And this is one of those places where we go from log store to session or update the session based on the log store. And I hope to push on the table so that we don't kind of do this hacky stuff farther down into the code. That being said, when UC comes in and this stuff gets dynamic, things change a bit, right? There we may have to create stores ad hoc as we discover files if we don't have it yet. But that's to worry about for another day. And we can do that during logical planning. We don't need to do that during execution. No, we should do that during logical planning and not during execution.
Okay. This makes sense to me. There's still a lot of messiness that has me concerned.
So Eon needed the wrapper to be pub to use it in Python.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still pub, but you can't find it because it's pub in a non-pub module. So users can never export it. But I like this better than exposing that type. Nobody should ever use that for anything other than us.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is the first operation that, besides the load operation, that now also got migrated. Well, this is the add constraint operation, and when you do add constraint, you need to run through all the data and make sure none of it violates anything. And this is actually something. This should be more performant now, in the sense of I think we may even have collected all data, but you should see that if we did or not. Nonetheless, I think it's much nicer when we just consume the stream.
All right.
Yay!
Can I be merged?
Yes, go ahead.
All right. Let's get that going.
So, which brings us to the question of next steps. I can do some review on this. I don't know if they changed it. Can we look in the diff really quick?
One moment. Please stand by.
Okay. So here, and I don't know, this may be because I just wrote this code, but this logic DV mask, and we have this default thing, yada yada yada. I feel like this is too complex. I feel like we don't actually need this. I think we need, yeah, exactly there you see it, right? So this is existing code, and this is the existing logic we have, and you see that in
This looks like it's just a refactor of. These are all tests. Okay, so we run, we get that. Maybe I was misunderstanding, but this doesn't look to me like it is. Oh, we may have lost Robert to a tunnel. That's okay. This doesn't look to me like it is. I'm curious what the test failure here looks like. Maybe I should read the pull request description again. Sometimes that helps. I don't know. Let's run these workflows. This, I must be missing something in this change. And then we go down and we say, well, selection vectors I thought was what we were draining off of. Because we get selection vectors, and that's where we get them on DV result. And then, oh no, so this is, there's a vec selection vector, which is different than what self-selection vectors is. What is going on here? I'm gonna have to look at this side by side because I'm not.
So I think if you look at the left-hand side, the problem we have is, so we check if we have a selection vector, get a mutable reference to it, drain it to an extent that we need, or if we have less entries in the selection vector, and this is something that can happen because the deletion vector only encodes up until the last deletion. It doesn't encode kind of all the trailing truths.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes any sense, right? So anything we
Sort of
get after the last deletion, we need to kind of impute. And this is what this extend back true remaining does. So here we're actually inefficient in the sense that once we drained it, we have an empty backend there that will access every time and then create a new Boolean array just to do a select all kind of on every subsequent batch after we exhausted the selection vector. And this is what they're trying to fix here.
I don't see a reason not to merge it then.
Yeah. I thought we were doing like a little bit too much, that we could have that easier, which is just in the else branch. But I think also let's just merge it. I'll leave it.
Well, so here's my reasoning. So every change that I look at, I'm usually looking at through the lens of what does the change do and who is doing it. This is a contributor who is newer, hasn't contributed much, to where even if it's like, let's say there's things that you would want to change, they're a newer contributor. I think we bring it in, and then
I agree. It's not so complex that I'm concerned. I think it can be a little bit easier, but the complexity we introduce, I mean, since I now have the 25,000 goal, we need to
let me see if we can get to Robert 0 in 2026.
But let me just also add my my stamp before you. Well, I have time. I see.
Hey, Steve. Steve joined us. We're just merging things left and right. So new table provider with data sync. Let's look at this one. Did you have full migration to the last version? Waiting to a table. Let's update you first. So let's see here. Data sync. Moving data out of table provider. We love to have that. So that's good. Some of these things are very, very heavily. Yeah, snapshot also bugs me. There's at least one of those snapshots that we can get rid of.
It isn't even a snapshot, in case you're wondering.
Sup, dog? Heard you like snapshots. Put snapshot in your snapshot. Data sync is a DataFusion data source thing, yada, yada, yada. All right, Mr. Peck. Why is Delta DataSync taking an eager snapshot?
The existing data sync. I have another PR, the new data sync, but that one uses kernel transactions.
Oh, this is just relocated code. Okay.
Yeah, this is just relocated code, and I yet merge it anyway because it makes it reviewable. But this needs to be integrated with the data checker, which is something we weren't doing so far, right? So our insert into implementation, while it does use our current committer and thus supports Dynamo stores, it does not check the data and stuff. So at least I wanted to integrate that while I work on nudging you to implementing a Dynamo-based committer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is the other one. This is, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm not going to look at this. You've got to resolve conflicts.
Yeah, and it uses kernel transactions. Oh, this one is beautiful.
The rare Humboldt Robert makes an appearance.
No, this one is going to get messy, nasty.
I already don't like this. Why is request coming in?
I mean, first thing that happens, and that's actually a pretty cool thing, is we're replacing file form implementations, which were using. No, we hoisted that from and just did the routing to support multiple stores. But we're using engine during long replay, during logical planning. So I thought about this and said, okay, we don't need that extra routing logic because the metadata scan will always only point at one store. Metadata is not distributed across multiple buckets. So we implement. Yeah, this one's not used yet. But what makes it beautiful? Fail. Why we failed? I didn't want to propagate the generics as we did with the task act, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I made everything Tokyo based, but obviously, so.
Oh, we may have lost him. Lost to the tunnel again.
Test kind of a separation of the I/O
and
the CPU runtime, and the code on my end only works because I have a dedicated CPU runtime.
Robert is on a train. In Europe, they have trains to get between places. So he is riding a train. It's cool though. He's coming in and out. We're just about out of time. So We are just about out of time. This is an interesting change to me that Robert and I will certainly have to discuss more, because this is definitely doing a lot of interesting kernel DataFusion bridging here. I sort of hear you, Robert, but we're kind of out of time.
Yeah, this one.
So
needs
I'm gonna.
So, well, why is this going to be fun? This needs some runtime juggling, and I think I know what to do. So essentially, we need to spawn the Tokyo runtime on a different thread. Let it run there, so we can call block on it. Not sure yet how we deal with if people want to give us a handle. But setting up this, and I want to show you a couple of pictures because I have some beautiful traces and using some redundant log replays, for instance. But I think those traces will really help us get to those 25,000 lines. But yeah, this one actually I stole from kernel, but I like it. The blocking stream iterator. It's simple, and I think it's well, the traced handle. That's what I did, just to ensure that every call gets traced. But yeah, the blocking stream iterator. I think that's all right. But maybe for next week we can analyze those traces a little bit and see if we are concurrent or not. I can't give you that answer yet. See every and I think they are waiting in parallel, right? Parallel concurrent, but they're waiting concurrently. But yeah, let's just look at the traces together, maybe next time, or I can send you some.
Yes. Robert, thank you for going through the effort of trying to hang out while you're traveling across Europe today. Good luck. I hope you come safely to Amsterdam and have fun hanging out with your pals in the presumably Databricks Amsterdam office. Carly, thank you much for setting us up. We have lots of code that's going out the door in Delta RS over the next couple of weeks. So we're going to have an interesting couple of sessions next week on Tuesday and probably the week after.